Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Massive Late Fee. We are here with another great interview. I know you guys have been loving these interviews. I am here with an absolute legend in the Hollywood industry. He has been in The Sting. He's been on Matlock, Simon and Simon, Kenny Rogers, The Gambler, that television movie. I remember that one very well. He was in the Herbie the Love Bug movie. Just a ton of stuff with a lot of fascinating stories. It is Lee Paul. Welcome, Lee. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you, Mark.
You have a new book coming out. I want to mention, or a book out that's out right now that I want to mention right off the top called Bitch, Pitch, and Get Rich. A book about how to succeed, basically, in any kind of creative endeavor. Can you tell us a little about your book?
Absolutely. I wrote the book because my father gave me three things. He gave me big eyes, a double chin, and a gift of gab. And he was a raconteur and a salesman all his life. And because I learned how to talk, I was able to use that to benefit myself career-wise, and eventually, as I got older, I did more talking and less doing. But right now, the book allows you, with the concept that everybody bitches about everything, but few people do anything about it. And this book says that you bitch, you owe it to yourself and your loved ones to try to pitch a better idea. And then by pitching a better idea, even if the idea fails, you will enrich yourself. Because richness is not always in the pocketbook. It can be. And it says there are chapters that allow you to get up and stand on your feet, speak what you believe in, increase your vocabulary, your memory, your voice, develop your voice, and have the courage to stand up and say, this is me and this is what I believe in. And it also deals with friendship and things that just enrich your life.
I think it's definitely a great idea for a book with the internet now, and everyone being able to sort of give their opinion or throw their ideas out there. I think there are definitely a lot of people that either complain or throw out kind of half-cocked ideas, but not nearly enough people who follow up on those things. So I think a lot of people will definitely find it helpful.
Well, the problem with today's technology, in my opinion, is that we have lost the capacity to communicate one-on-one. People text each other across a table rather than talk to each other. And this book is maybe antiquated from that point of view, but I believe that everything boils down to one-on-one. You have to be able to look somebody in the eye and say, hello, this is what I believe in, this is who I am, and hear what they say as well. And so that's why learning to have the confidence to stand up and be heard and to listen, which is just as important, is what this book's all about.
You started your career the first thing that I have is 66 on Hey Landlord, the TV series. You did a lot of television earlier in your career, and later in your career too. Back in the mid 60s, the 70s, during that era of television, was there? We always kind of hear about it, but I'm curious: was there a really stark division between quote-unquote TV actors and movie actors?
That's an interesting question, and the truth is that there was. Early on, movie stars and movie performers wouldn't do television. They thought television had killed the business for them, and that they thought it was beneath them. So when you were an episodic television actor, you were not in the same A list as they were. And of course, even today, you're never in the same list. But what has happened, ironically, as there's been less and less work and more actors, television is now a plethora of movie stars doing television. In fact, a lot of them moved from their career on film to television and had their own series and went on with that great stuff. But today, it's more or less an open field. I won't go into, unless you want to hear about it, how stars are regulated and how their roles are regulated in the industry compared to how they say in England. But if you want to hear about that, I'll be happy to talk about it.
Sure. I mean, that definitely sounds interesting. Exactly how are they regulated in the United States?
Well, let's put it this way. When I was doing The Gambler 1 and 2 with Kenny Rogers, I happened to be on the set when a photographer from the local newspaper, we were in Panorama City, Florida, and that's another story about the Cadillac clock. We'll get into that if you want. But he took a picture of me sitting in makeup, in costume, on this old antique car. And it was one of the shots printed in the paper amongst all the stars of the show. And I got a lot of flack. How did you get into this? You're just a supporting player or just a co-star. And at the same time, when we went anywhere, there were the limousines and the retinue. And the leading people were up front and the supporting people were in the back. And that was the way it was. And the point is that you had to fight as a performer to try and get into the inner circle. And it was tough. If you pushed too hard, you got blackballed or you got dismissed. If you didn't push at all, you just langured in the bottom morose of all the other actors. So it was a struggle. Advertising was one of the ways to do that, to help yourself break yourself out. And today now it's all on the internet.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Sort of the strata that existed in Hollywood at the time. I can definitely see that, but I think I don't know. I feel like there's more of an appreciation today for great character actors that move from show to show or film to film, and obviously without great character actors there are no great movies. So I think that's at least an attitude that I think has been relaxed. I don't know, at least outside the industry. I don't know exactly if it's still like that in the industry or not, but it seems like there's more appreciation for supporting players, as it were.
Well, we would hope so. And the people who like the older genre where there's good stories and story writing, which we more or less lost by blowing up everything in the world and in the universe, those people do remember the character actors. Today it's all CIG and it's all Foley and it's all this and that, and a lot of the great writing has gone. In England, a lord or a sir, a knighted actor can do a walk-on role with no billing, and it's perfectly acceptable. And in fact, it enriches the cast of all these shows with just the greatest actors doing what we would consider the parts. In America, if you step down one step from your position, wherever it is, you can't get back. In other words, it takes 30 years to get to the top, and it takes 30 seconds to wind up at the bottom. And that robs the public of a lot of great, small, intimate performances that these stars could offer. But again, now we get into that thing about what are stars. And I can talk about that in reference to this thing if you'd like, because that's another aspect of our industry that I think doesn't do the job of allowing the public to get the best performances all the time.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to talk about the Sting. You've sparked my interest a little about the films that we have today and sort of the lack of writing. the Netflix and there are a couple other streaming services I think do well. I don't know if they do a decent job, but at least they provide a venue for some smaller films. Unfortunately, as a lot of people have pointed out, what happens with some of these smaller movies is that, or medium-sized movies, really medium-budgeted films, they just sort of get dumped on Netflix with no trailers, no fanfare or anything like that. It's very hard for them to find an audience. It seems that anything that does well in the theaters now is some large tentpole movie, whether it's a superhero film or some giant horror project or a big action movie like that. And we really do see a lack of solid screenplay writing in the business now. What exactly do you think shifted about the industry to cause this to occur? And do you think that there is a possibility of it shifting back at some point?
Well, it's all about money. Today, if you don't have a budget of at least $10 million and up, nobody wants to look at it because that's where the money is made. The art films, the smaller productions, the $1.5 million to $5 million, or even the low budget Screen Actors Guild contracts of under $500,000, they try to make films. They make them on credit cards. Those are almost impossible, as you said, to get the exposure you need unless it's some unique trick. I think there were a couple of horror films that started out just low budget, but they caught on and became a phenom, and people started to watch. The problem is that it's harder to write a good story than it is to blow up the world, even though they do a marvelous job. I mean, I enjoy the large action films, believe me, and I'm a fan of 3D, and we could go on 2 years about 3D, and they're still making some of these massive epics in 3D, but I really think that it's the money. The money. They have to get a star. If you don't have a star, you don't have a project. You have to pay a tremendous amount of money, which leaves very good money in the budget normally for all the supporting players, the good character people you like. It's like the lottery. The first prize is $12 billion. The second prize is $3. And there's nothing left for the smaller player. Well, there's nothing left for the smaller actor either, money-wise. And we fight and struggle just to stay alive because the budget is completely overwhelmed by production and by the stars demanding these huge salaries. You know, again, I don't want to get into the Sting so much, but it's a great film. And if I can continue, one of the things about the Sting was that the major stars didn't get a lot of money. They got a good salary, but they knew this thing may or may not take off, and so they asked for a large percentage of the gross. And that's where they made their money and made millions. But the point is that today, people don't trust anything. If it doesn't click in 24 hours, it's dead. And if something doesn't happen in your phone in 24 milliseconds, it's dead. So they don't trust the long legs of some of these films. And so what they do is they want a big chunk in front, and if it doesn't make it, they've got theirs.
Yeah. Gone are the days of like E.T. or even as recently as like the mid '90s, like Jurassic Park, which would be in theaters for years. I think E.T. was in theaters for about 2 years. That obviously because of the internet and home video, Netflix, things like that, that really doesn't happen anymore. These movies seem to make all their money in the first 3 or 4 weeks, and then they're gone, and something else is taking their place. So that technology and money, I think, have definitely shifted the industry for sure. Before, real quick, early on in your career, as I said, you were in a lot of very popular television shows too. Hawaii Five-0. You had a couple guest spots on Mission Impossible, Macmillan and Wife, Kung Fu. What's the audition process like, or what was the audition process like in the early 70s as far as getting on these different shows? And did people sort of see you around, know that you were available for these things, or did you seek out a lot of these projects? Sort of, how did that materialize?
Well, you bring a very, very cogent point. Today, everybody can be a casting director. If they have a PC, they can get breakdowns and find out what films are up and what the parts are, and they can submit themselves and other people without an agent. In the early days, your agent was everything. If your agent had a good reputation and they needed a certain part, they would go to these major agencies and ask them to suggest actors. I was with Avi Glessler of Diamond Artists, legend. He was called the Jewish Dracula. He was dead, but he just wouldn't lay down. He was a legend. He had Martin and Lewis, and he had tons of great people. But the point is that they would go to these agents and ask for people. Now, everybody was struggling to get an interview. And the point is that when you did get an interview, it was kind of a special thing. I can remember late at the end of my active career, which I'm trying to revitalize, I would have a script delivered to me by a courier. Just recently, I was up for a very, very small part, which I had to go online and pay $1 a page to get the script sent to me over the internet. That is what has happened. They never saw me. They never interviewed me. They never taped me. I had to read on my own phone the part and submit it electronically. Now, here we are talking about actors who supposedly communicate, who bring the essence of life to the screen or to the television, and it's all mechanical. And with this new ability to recreate the past, there are actors that are dead that are now in movies. They have abilities to create not only their voice but their visage, their presence in a film. There was a couple just recently that just big films that used actors that were dead and are now still in the pictures. So it was a struggle, and it always is a struggle. But the point is there are more and more actors and less parts. And that is a very big issue. I hope your audience doesn't want to run out and buy Acting by Stanislavski so they can try to get back into the business, because 5 million people come to Los Angeles every year to become a star, and 4,999,000 seem to leave. Thank God. Yeah. There's just not enough work anymore.
Yeah, especially like you said, when Peter Cushing is taking parts from you, and he died in 91?
That's one of the characters I was trying to think of. Right?
Yeah, but so. Through all that television work, obviously you get a role in The Sting, award-winning film, 1973. Paul Newman and Robert Redford, two obviously gigantic stars at the time. How exactly did you get your role in The Sting, and what was it like to be on that kind of a big set?
Well, let me start off by humbly saying that I got hired by mistake. That's what I was told by George Roy Hill, the director, in the middle of production one day. He later refuted that statement. But what happens is, when you're a supporting player, and even though I'm a featured player, we actually had 2 or 3 weeks of rehearsals before they started filming this movie with all the major stars. The supporting players weren't in there. In fact, I complained when we did the 30th anniversary at the Newport Film Festival a couple of years ago that I wish they'd given me more than one line. My line was, the truth is that I was on the film for 14 weeks, which today is an absolute career.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, you get paid residually by how long you're on the film, not necessarily how many lines you have. So the point is that I got hired because he picked me out of a casting, maybe the Academy Players in those days or whatever, saw a guy, said, get that guy. Now, I get on the set, and one of the first shots is us, Charlie Durkoff, the other bad guy, the other heavy, and me walking through the train. And what he did was he put me leading, because I'm the big guy. I'm 6'6", and I'm the big bad guy, even though I have a baby face. In fact, Rolling Stone said in the paper when they wrote an article about us being in Chicago, lead baby-faced Paul. So that was my title at the moment. Anyway, I'm walking down, and we're waddling back and forth. The train is moving. And when they saw the rushes, two things happened. One, Pat Salduti, who was the main male costumist, brought me over the side and said, well, thank God you're in the movie. And I said, what do you mean? He said, he hired the wrong guy. But once they established me, I was in the film. The next thing was that George Ray Hill in the daily said, why in the hell did I put him first? I can't put anybody behind him. I should have put little Charlie first, Robert Shaw second, and the big dink third. Because you could see me above everybody's head. But that's the way it was sequenced, and that's how I got the film. Now, you're a publicity guy. Steve Joyner is my new publicity man. The man I had at the time was named Al Ebner, and he was a legend. In fact, I know I'm talking too much, and I apologize. No, Al Ebner actually helped my wife, who was a dancer, a lead dancer in Vegas for 20 years, get a role, a small supporting role in Third Girl from the Left with Kim Novak. But Al Ebner actually put a little article out in the Variety, which is the in-house, publication for people in the industry, with a blurb that says, Lee Paul co-stars with Robert Redford and Paul Newman. Oh, my God. I was nowhere near a co-star, and I hid for 2 days from the set because I was sure they were going to just either ridicule me or just chop me up in little pieces. It turns out they didn't give a damn. But the truth is that it was all publicity. And it's amalgam. You try to do your best. You get prepared for the role. You study. You train. And then the next minute you're outside. The next minute you're inside. The next minute you're outside, and you don't know whether you've got it or not.
Right. Yeah, that definitely. I think that's one thing that hasn't necessarily changed today. Although I think the methods of it obviously have changed. But, publicity and hype and stuff like that definitely is still part of the industry. I think it's easier. A lot of times people have to do it themselves, whether it's on the internet or whatever. I think it's a lot of times it's a little easier to have a third party do it, because I'm sure you wouldn't have thought of to get a story in Variety of you co-starring in the Sting, but the people that you pay to kind of hype your career, that's the sort of stuff that they don't feel any embarrassment doing.
No, I might have tried, but they wouldn't have listened to me. You have to have you have to have your reputation. You have to have something leading you on. Public relations and publicity, it's show and business. The show is the publicity, the acting stuff, and the business is the money.
Yeah, for sure. So after The Sting, you do another string of TV series. One thing that strikes me about your resume is that you've appeared multiple times on the same shows, different characters. This obviously is the era of episodic television where, shows don't, or episodes don't necessarily connect to each other. I mean, they're all part of the same series, but there's no necessarily serialized overarching plot line. So people are free to play different, the supporting players are free to play different roles as they're brought back. But it says to me that people must have liked working with you and enjoyed the work that you were doing, because, like I said, it seems to me, I mean, you were on Ironside 3 different times. One time, in a two-part show. And you were on Canon a few times. There were lots of shows that you did more than one appearance on. So, do you feel like that you were the type of person that people enjoyed your work and your work ethic on set, and that's why they kept bringing you back?
Yes and no. Yes, I try to present myself professionally, be prepared, do the best work. My wife of 47 years, I might say, says I ask too many questions, and I used to ask a lot of questions because curiosity again is one of the things that enriches your entire being, and I also wanted to be as clear-minded about my role and what I did. I've said, "Can I get the boss 400,000 times?" And you have to find different ways to say it as a bad guy. But the truth is that a lot of these multiples were by different directors, and each director brings his own team together and casts the role himself. So if you're active and you've got a decent agent and you do everything you can, publicity-wise and everything, you get at least to go in and read for the roles. And if you're lucky enough and crafted enough, and the part is right enough, you get cast. Now, that's the bane and the boon. I was a big guy. I played mentally retarded bad guys for years because my real brother, Noel J. Kroll, was an idiot savant. He had a problem early on in his life and went into a coma. But I watched him so much that I was able to empathize, but also bring his troubled spirit to the screen. And in fact, I was cast over and over again as kind of an oaf for a guy that was dumb or a guy that was not all there. In fact, one role, and you mentioned Ironside, one role, it was so close. Listen, this is really something. You got to let me talk about this. In those days, there was caring, even with the studios and with the networks. My real brother had this brain damage. I played one of my best roles with a very, very young 11-year-old Jodie Foster called Bubble, Toil, and Murder on Ironside. In fact, Rod Serling of Twilight Zone fame actually had a role in it. Why he would take a role from that, I don't know. But NBC actually wrote my mother in New York, in Brooklyn, and said, your son is going to be on our show. He's playing a mentally retarded character. He's extremely effective in it, but we wanted to prepare you for it because we didn't want you to be upset. Who would do that today?
Right.
Nobody. Now, not only was I good in the role, I was very good in the role. I got fan mail from across the country saying we're so happy that people with mental deficiencies are given a chance to show it.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely high praise. And you bring up an interesting point too that I think not a lot of people think about outside of the industry, and I wonder how many young actors really think about it today. One of the big things as far as being an actor and preparing for roles, you have to be a good observer as well. You have to be a good observer of people and how they behave. And I don't Do you think that's an art form lost on some of the younger up and coming actors now?
I hate to be negative about anybody, but superficiality has become a thing. Non-involvement has become a thing. The point is, they're so busy leaping, tunneling, running, falling down that there's very little time for character development, and there's little time for observing, as you say. I mean, some of the great actors. Charles Laughton said, "It's my job to show on screen the pathos, the empathy, the caring that people feel in their heart but are ashamed or embarrassed to relate to when they talk to other people. But they can see it in a role that I can help bring to the screen and feel it and share it with the people that care." And what has happened is there's very, very few roles that have empathy, that have caring. They don't write them that way. It's not that the actors can't do that. They're just not asked to do it. You know, I mean, can you imagine The Rock having to, go 1/4 of an inch below his muscular skin? They don't ask him to do that.
Right.
And people don't care about it. They just want to see him blowing up the latest skyscraper. And that's a tragedy. That's why I'm a fan of Turner Classic Movies. There's a plug for Turner Classic Movies. I'm still watching movies in the 40s and 50s. In fact, before this interview, I was watching a silent film with Greta Garbo with sound effects behind it. The dialogue was not live, but the sound effects were. And I think it was called Black Orchid or something like that. Fascinating, because I love the old cars and everything. We used to have silent movies. Then we had movies with sound. Then we had sound in movies. Now we have sound with movies. It's, 5.1, 7.1 channel surround sound is what we revel in. Mm-hmm. And the stories have diminished, in my opinion.
Did you see, working from the 60s to the 70s to the late 80s, did you see a lot of change in the industry during that period of time? Or do you think that, with the rise of the internet and things like that, that the changes have come more recently and more quickly?
I think they've come more recently and more quickly. I did not see the changes that much. I was still in my idea, the glory days up to 91. And I left the business for many reasons. In fact, my new agent said, "Well, tell me about yourself." They actually found me and brought me in. And I said, "Well, for the first 30 years, I was acting. The next 30 years, I was living and life. Because I, too, had to grow. I had to absorb the experience of being a human being, because that's again, we're getting through technology now. We're losing that touch with humanity. We're losing the touch with humanity. We're not only losing the touch with humanity, we're losing the touch with the earth and the sky and the water. But let's not go into that, because that's another 5 years of interview.
Yeah, that's we could definitely. I think you and I think quite similarly, and we definitely could go a long time about things like that. In the 80s, and late 70s too, you did, as you mentioned, the Kenny Rogers films, the Gambler films. What was it like to work with Kenny Rogers? Obviously not necessarily a trained actor, a singer, but I remember from being a kid, these films the television movies were immensely popular. I remember watching them, and how exactly did that project come together, and what was it like working on that film?
Well, let me share this. Kenny Rogers was professional, and Boston too. And he did something that was absolutely marvelous. The first day on the set of the first Gambler that we did, he brought the cast together and said, look, I'm not an actor. I'm a singer. Anything you guys can do to help me get through this, I'm going to greatly appreciate. He was humble enough to say, help me. And everybody did. Now, one thing you don't know, or people may not know, is Kenny has one eye, and I can't remember whether it was the left or right. There was a weak eye. It used to kind of flutter a little bit, or drift just a little bit. He wasn't cross-eyed, but in a close-up, you could see it moving. And they shot almost entirely every one of his close-ups from the other side, so it wouldn't show. Now, that was a practical thing to make the film better, but was also an homage to him as a professional who said, make me look as good as I can. Now, that's pretty fine. Today, you don't even get a chance to talk to the stars. They have their dressing rooms, they have their limos, and unless you're in the inner circle, you're just not in it. Period.
Yeah, absolutely. So you do the Gambler. Obviously, they bring you back for the sequel. In the sequel, did you play a different character in the sequel?
Well, actually, I played the same character, but with a totally different bent.
Okay.
In the first Gambler, I was just a big bad guy. In the second, I was a big, bad, wish guy. I was fumbling around. I was nervous. I was the keeper of the money. And in the last sequence, I guess I started when near the climax. I was running and I started to stumble, and the camera stood on me as I tried to not fall down because it wasn't staged that way, and I kept getting closer and closer and closer to the ground and running, and finally I hit the ground and the money went all over the place, and that was the start of that sequence. But I was allowed to be a slightly different character. And as a bad guy, that's what we look for. We look for the variance, and that's the fun of being a bad guy. Mm. A heavy can be a different kind of heavy. It doesn't have to be just a heavy all the time. Now, they try to box you. You know, I told you before I played this retarded person in Benedetto Toilet Murder, and for the next 8 years, the same producer hired me over and over again for the same role. And I finally said, in different shows, of course, I said, why do you do that? He said, because I can count on you. It's no problem. Done deal. And I said, well, I'd like to try something else. I can do something else. Bring me in another part. He said, oh, sure. Never heard from him again. Because everybody wants a quick and easy. And sometimes the creative process demands involvement, demands blood and guts in order to get something meaningful and soulful about the role. And of course, the time frame of television doesn't often allow you to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. As we talked about earlier, you know, with the lack of original, well, not necessarily lack. Well, there's a lot of remakes and a lot of reboots, obviously, in Hollywood. But with the lack of sort of intimate and well-written, tightly woven scripts on the big screen, it seems like that's helped revitalize TV a little, especially not series television, like serialized television, with long overarching stories, things like that. Whether it's Breaking Bad or The Wire, Sopranos, sort of started at 6 Feet Under. Do you think that television is even better than it was before? And do you think that what do you attribute the the directions that television has taken?
Well, I believe the networks, which used to rule everything, formalized everything. And so it was the same music, the same cutting, the same style. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the independence, the cable has expanded greatly the creativity of the writers, and some of these new shows are terrific. Absolutely terrific. I only wish that they'd written some parts now for older guys. Because again, the demographics are projected to the 20s to 40s. That's where the buyers are, that's where the attentiveness is, that's where the interest is. But yes, I agree with you. I believe that television is better because it isn't as formalized. At the same time, under the strict regions of the networks, they did some wonderful things, All in the Family, and I studied with Rob Reiner in the early days, with the same acting coach who's now gone, Jeff Corey. But the creativity will find a way out. Now, whether it's going to be big money and big box office, we never know. But as an actor or as someone who wants to really feel alive and be involved with life, you've got to empathize, you've got to communicate, you've got to be able to look someone in the eye and say, how are you? Tell me something I haven't heard before. And maybe more and more writing will come to that. I've got a script in front of me that I wrote that I was hoping that maybe somebody in the audience was dying to do a $2 to $5 million budget right here in front of me, called Bastard Pink. But that's another story for another time.
Well, Vince Gilligan, I know you listen to the show, Mr. Gilligan. Write a part for Lee Paul in your next upcoming thing. That's my plea to you.
Great.
Well, that is all the time we have here on Massive Late Fee. It has been a singular pleasure to talk to you, Mr. Paul. Go out and check out the book Bitch, Pitch, and Get Rich. You can find that on Amazon. Definitely check that out. Tune into some of these older TV shows for both Mr. Paul's great work on them and for interesting characterization, interesting acting, and definitely some innovative writing. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been a pleasure. We will hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks again, Mark Phillips. It's been fun.
Thanks.